morning, viewers. Welcome to another edition of AAU Talks on the AAU TV test broadcast. I am Akua, and in the studio with me today is Ms Nodumo Dhlamini. Welcome, madam.
Thank you, Akua.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right. Ms Nodumo Dhlamini is the Director of ICT and Services Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. And she's a Zimbabwean, before I forget. Welcome, madam.
Thank you, Akua.
Yeah. We'll be talking on the AAU vision of ICT in higher education.
Yes.
Okay. What is the vision of AAU in higher education?
Okay, maybe first of all, ICT stands for Information and Communication Technologies.
Okay.
Our vision as the association is that our member universities and universities in Africa in general will be the leaders in harnessing the benefits from ICT for teaching, learning, and research.
Wow.
Yeah. So that the quality of education increases.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, okay. Okay. What are the strategies that the AAU has put in place in using ICT in higher education?
We have a number of strategies that we use to achieve this vision. Okay. One of them, we work to address ICT infrastructure issues in Africa. Okay. We also work to build the capacities of the ICT professionals in African universities. Okay. We are also beginning a program to benchmark ICT development. We also promote university industry linkages, particularly focusing on ICT, the ICT private sector. Okay. Yeah, so those are some of the things that we do.
Wow, it's just some of the things, so there are more.
Yes.
All right, okay. So you talked about ICT infrastructure. Can you tell us more about that?
ICT infrastructure, what we do, we promote the creation of national research and education networks at a national level. We've been doing this since 2006. Wow. So a number of countries now have national research and education networks because of the efforts of the association in partnership with various development partners. Okay. And then those NRENs, we call them NRENs, they become the internet service providers for educational institutions, so that educational institutions can get cheap bandwidth, a better quality bandwidth, more available bandwidth, and they can do their business of teaching, learning, and research. And they are not treated like corporate organizations, but they are treated like educational and research institutions when it comes to the cost of the connectivity.
Yeah, that's true. I like the word cheap you use there, because for many university students that's a big challenge. Yes. You know, this data bundling is quite expensive. Yes. And we have small money. We as students, we have small money, and by the time we take a large chunk of it for internet purposes, it will be very difficult for us to survive. So we will really appreciate if the AAU can make that very effective.
Yes, and I think we need to work with governments, because the connectivity situation in Africa has changed. Yes. There's actually more connectivity. The challenge we have is the last mile. Okay. The governments need to work with everybody to ensure the remotest village in a country also has connectivity. Yeah, not just the main towns.
Oh, okay. So now is this thing is it effective now in our universities?
It is actually those countries which have mature NRENs, like Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, Morocco, Tunisia, and now Senegal. They've got mature NRENs, and they are able to have services such as Edurom. Okay. EduRoam is educational roaming. So if you are a student, a Senegalese, you travel to South Africa and you go to a different university, you can use your credentials from Senegal to access internet freely in a university in South Africa, because the two institutions are on EduRoam. Yes, yeah. So it's already happening. There are countries where it's not, but where there's been progress, they are really seeing the benefits.
Wow, that's good. So how is AAU working with private institutions or private organizations to strengthen ICT in higher education?
What we do, we create platforms. We facilitate that networking, those connections. Last year we hosted the Executive Educational Technology Forum, which brought ICT directors, vice chancellors, and the private sector. So the private sector was able to say what it can do for universities. The universities were able to say what they need from the private sector. So we need now to follow up to find out what happened as a result of those connections. Yes, yeah.
Okay, lastly, you mentioned that the AAU tends to organize a program to benchmark ICT development in higher education. Can you tell us more on that?
We have developed a tool which we will use for universities to do self-assessment in terms of how far they are with harnessing ICT for teaching, learning, and research. So, for example, this tool has a component on ICT infrastructure. There are questions that we are asking, where are you in this part? Then there's a section on e-learning maturity. Then maybe there's a section on websites, the adequacy of their websites. And then after we get the universities completing the tool, we will validate their responses, then we publish, do a publication, so that universities can see where they are, what their weaknesses are, and what their strengths are, and what they need to do to improve. Yes, yes.
So if, for instance, they see their weaknesses, what can they do to strengthen? Would the AAU assist them?
I think then it makes it easier to work together to map the way forward, because this is based on data. The challenge we have had is that it's always been my word against the next person's word. You know, we need to do this. But what's the basis? So the benchmarking will give us data, give us information, will give us the justifications, so that when we approach governments, we approach our development partners, it is based on facts that this needs to happen, this is where we are, and this is how it must be done. Yes.
Thank you, Madam, for honoring our invitation.
Thank you very much, Akua. I've enjoyed the show.
Well, thank you. All right, viewers. Madam Nodumo has 25 years working experience in different sectors, in the educational sector, in the railway sector, and different sectors, and she has worked in different countries. If you want to know more about her, just visit her LinkedIn page at Nodumo Dhlamini. Next time, till we'll meet you next time, in our next segment, I'm Joan Akua.